Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of the Daily Hustle podcast. Today I'm here with Beth Parker.
Hello.
We're in the Breakthrough Fitness gym at the moment. Basically, this facility is where Beth coaches and is a PT. Beth, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. So basically today our goal is to go deeper into Beth's past as a athlete and then go into more what she does now as a coach. So Beth, talk me through what you've done in terms of competing. I know that you competed at a very young age. How old were you when you first started?
My first comp, I was 16. I think I just turned 16. It was May or June in 2015, May or June, something around there. So I was 16 years old when I started powerlifting. But before that, I joined a gym when I was about 12. So I've been training for like the better half of a decade, which is exciting to look at. So
That's mad. So you started when you were, what was that, 12 or 13?
12, yeah, I think it was in year 8 at school, so I would have been 12.
Okay, and then why did you decide to go to the gym at such a young age?
For me, I was always interested in fitness. My dad always had a gym at home. He would always, he actually does martial arts, but he always did strength training.
Yeah.
So he was always like in the gym at home doing stuff, and I just wanted to be in there lifting weights. And as I got older, I always just wanted to join a gym. I just thought that it was like something to do. Like I always viewed gym as a sport.
Yeah.
And then from there, once I joined a gym, I finally convinced my parents. It was like just along like the way home from school, which was so lucky. So they let me go there after school and then catch the bus home after that once I was in high school.
Yeah.
I mainly joined just because it was going to help some of the imbalances that I had from throwing. So I did shot put and javelin I represented New South Wales for that.
Okay.
I can't remember if I came 5th or 6th at nationals for javelin or something like that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I represented New South Wales for that. I had like a lot of right shoulder issues. Like I was just getting like pain through my right side. My left side was becoming a little bit visibly like dropped down as well.
Right.
So just underdeveloped, and then I joined the gym in the hopes of improving that, and then ended up finding a sport that gives me more imbalances, which is good.
Yeah, right. Quite ironic, but basically in terms of your javelin and shot put athletics, I guess.
Yeah.
How old when you first started that?
I did little athletics from when I was a kid, so it would have been year 4 or 5 at school. Maybe I was like 8.
Yeah.
It was like a Friday night thing. You go there and you like go do your athletics. It was like a social thing. Everyone like hangs out after. Like a lot of my friends from primary school were doing it as well. So that was from a really young age as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And so were your parents very supportive of you competing in athletics? You said that you had to convince your parents to go to the gym.
Yeah.
So what was that sort of like?
I think the gym concern was mainly just like the whole misconception about training when young is bad for your growth and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
I think they were just undereducated on that side of things, which is not necessarily true, which I'm happy to dive into a bit later.
Yeah.
That was like the main concern. And also I think just being in the public, you don't know what gym they're going to join, what influence people will have on you and that sort of stuff. So I think their main concern for that was just making sure I was in the right environment, doing the right things. It's very easy to be swayed the wrong way these days, and I see it a lot like young kids just being pushed in the wrong direction with training. So, I can see why they were concerned, which is always a good thing. But no, they had no doubt once I explained to them what I wanted to do with powerlifting, and even once I explained like whole like weight training and stuff like that, they're like, yeah, like we know you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
They didn't have any concern with athletics. I actually, when I was competing in athletics, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I've always had that like I have to win mentality. So I've always been like really upset, even if I did well and like what's next, what am I doing next?
Yeah.
And their only concern was how seriously I was taking it, even at that young age. Yeah. So they like pushed me to go see like a sports psychologist at a young age and like just make sure I had the right sort of like approach to training, which at the time I didn't really understand, but now I think like it's very valuable, the approach that they gave me. It was a bit more sustainable in the powerlifting. It got like pretty crazy when I was younger, and I really wanted just to like win athletics and stuff like that. But because they did that, it made me a better athlete by the time I found powerlifting, and then even better coach now after all that I've been through.
Yeah. And so you mentioned your dad was a martial artist. Were both your parents involved in a lot of athletics and sports as well? Did you have siblings? Do you have any siblings at the moment?
Yeah, I've got an older brother. He did athletics and stuff as well. He also did martial arts with my dad.
Okay.
I wasn't really allowed to do the martial arts because that was like my brother's thing, and we were very competitive.
Right.
Yeah, so we weren't allowed to like cross worlds or anything. It was like, that's your brother's thing and this is your thing.
Yeah.
And you guys can be separate because it was always a big competition. We're very close in age too, so we're only like 2 years apart.
Yeah, right.
So it was very competitive.
Okay.
But yeah, he did martial arts with my dad. My mum's just very active. Like, she loves walking. She does at least like 5Ks a day.
Whoa.
When she gets home from work. Like, just something like keeps her moving and stuff like that. Because she works in an office at the moment, so she's sitting down a lot. So making sure that she's always moving. She's always been very active. And I can just remember, like, when we were kids, it was always like, let's go like walk around Parramatta Park for the day or whatever. Like, just be active or ride our bikes or whatever it was.
Right.
I think just as long as we were moving, they were happy.
Yeah.
And that was like the big thing that pushed towards, I would say, some of the nurture side of why I was so successful, as well as there's a very big nature side with the way I'm built and stuff like that. But yeah, the nurture side was very important from them, which they didn't even realize at the time.
Yeah, so they were big influences in terms of getting you active, and you just sort of fell into certain things. So you fell into athletics because that was just there for you.
Yeah.
And then you went to the gym mainly because you wanted to fix up all those balances in athletics.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's even like just falling into what you're good at. Like athletics, you have like such a wide variety of things that you do. I was actually all right at the sprints, anything long distance, or anything over 100 meters, no way. But the sprint, for some reason, I could do really well. I think just like the fast twitch sort of fibers, not endurance based at all. And that you just steer towards what you're good at, I think, these days. So like you do something you enjoy, but then within that enjoyment, you kind of like stick to what you know.
Well, yeah, of course. Like if you're good at it, then you'll enjoy it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. And so in terms of your training, then what was going through your mind in terms of trying to fix up imbalances? Like I know a lot of people, when they are even at an older age, when they are training, they don't even think about imbalances. They just sort of train.
Yeah.
And so what was making you think about, I've got to fix imbalances, I've got to make sure that, my left shoulder is the same as my right and all that? Was it more like a physical appearance thing, or was it more like you're feeling pain?
No, I definitely felt it. I was seeing physio at the time. I have, and I still have it, my external rotation on my right side is way more overdeveloped than my left. So I have that imbalance where I'm always like favoring external rotation on my right shoulder. That's just from like your throwing pattern, so opening up the shoulder and getting that external rotation. I was seeing a physio for treating my trap because the lower trap was not getting worked as hard as the upper trap in some situations, and even my subscap and my serratus were a little bit beat up from extension and impact and stuff like that, especially with javelin, because you're kind of leaning in as you throw, so you're getting that impact as you land, and you're in that weird external rotation position. It's very stressful to like that last big step that you're taking. So I was definitely feeling it. I was seeing a physio, just a local physio, that was like a family physio, no one in particular. But she was very useful. And I still saw her up until it got like a bit more serious with powerlifting, and I kind of had to look into a bit more sports specific. But she was just kind of like, hey, I think training would definitely help. I don't think there's a bad way to approach it, as long as you're doing a mix of like single arm and bilateral work. Well, she just explained it as like single arm and double arm, like keeping it. I was only like 12 at the time. Right. And it was just funny because like I couldn't really mess it up, because I just went to this gym. Everyone trained arms on, or like chest on Monday, so I did that. Everyone trained back on Tuesday, so I did that. Literally just got there and I just started following what other people were doing. Then after a while I was just like researching on YouTube, like what do I enjoy? Like I took the things that I enjoyed, which are of course squat, bench and deadlift.
Did you start at the gym by yourself?
I joined with a friend.
Same age?
Pardon?
Same age?
Yeah, she was around the same age as me, but it was more like we joined together, but they did the cardio classes.
Okay.
Like so they were definitely more like in the cardio side of things. And whenever we did weights together, it was kind of like, I don't know if I can go this heavy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So yeah, it was just more like us focusing on getting to the gym together, and then once we were there, we kind of like diversified into what we wanted to do, and then caught the bus home together or something like that.
In terms of that gym, I know a lot of gyms have age limits now, like 15 or 16 would be the age limit. That gym was chill about it, or like what was the deal there?
Well, I had to sign up with my parents, so they had to sign and say that it was fine. This gym's pretty dodgy, so I wouldn't put it past them to be like, this is just happening all the time. I ended up working there not long after I started powerlifting, so when I went to leave that gym, they offered me a job as a reception, and that was great at the time, but they were so dodgy, underpaying me, and like
let's not mention that gym.
we don't mention that gym, but it was so dodgy, so I wouldn't put it past them that there was like no laws around that.
Fair enough. Wow. Okay, cool. Let's talk about your transition into powerlifting then. You mentioned before that you were doing research and you're just falling into things that you're enjoying. Did it come from your own research online, or someone like, hey, you should look into powerlifting, or what was that?
Yeah, it was kind of more like I actually really liked bodybuilding, like really liked it. All the things I was looking at, they were like just kind of like media head, like bodybuilder guys. Like I remember like I was watching like Geordie Shaw, and then Joel Corey would post like bodybuilding videos, and like Not that I really liked how he looked or anything, because that's really not what it was about. But it was more like I saw this guy on TV. He obviously got results. I could appreciate his process. So I was just kind of like, I would look at these videos of like personalities training and stuff like that.
I see.
But the underlying factor was always like, you always squat on leg day. You always do deadlifts. Like, I was always like a compound happening every day.
Right, okay. Yep.
So no matter what I was doing, I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of the frequency, but I was always training my compounds at least twice a week.
Okay.
Obviously, we know that we can do bench a little bit more than that now and all like all that sort of stuff. But like I was always underlying factor that there was compounds at the start of my day, and then I would smash myself with accessories. For a while, I was just kind of like hitting maxes all the time. Just really bad sort of just approach into it. But then I started to feel it and worked on a little bit of a process. I used to do like every month, kind of like build up to something heavy.
Okay, so again, like 4-week blocks almost.
Yeah, well, like not necessarily the best sort of system, but it worked. So, how bad can it be if it worked?
I think at a young age as well, your body just takes it. Like your body is so adaptable and flexible at a young age. Were there any parts of training that you shied away from? Did you feel like, hey, what was that?
Cardio.
Did you feel like being a female in a gym affected you in any way? Did you feel like you were like shy or anything? How did that go with you?
Initially, like when we signed up, I think that's why we all signed up as friends, because we wanted to like support each other and get into the gym floor. The gym that I was at, the gym that we do not name, it was very bodybuilding focused. Like it was quite the mecca at the time around the Hills area.
Okay.
And it could be intimidating on the floor, but at least in my mind, I started to get like, I just started to realize that it was what I wanted to do, and I didn't really care about like what other people were looking at.
Awesome, yeah.
And I think also what tied down to it is I started to like make friends there, which made it a little bit more comfortable. And that's always that the environment will help you push a little bit further. Once I got comfortable, I didn't have an issue, but my friends definitely still felt the issues and self-conscious and all that sort of stuff. It's still in my mind. Like I'll even go to like a world gym at the moment, like at peak hour. I went there. I've never been to the world gym that I train at nighttime. Went there recently at 5 p.m. This is literally on Monday. And like initially I walk in and I just see like a fucking zoo of people. I'm just going to swear, sorry. I just see like this zoo of people, and I was like, oh man, like I really just don't want to be here. But then once I start training, I just forget everyone's there. It's really not in the back of my mind. But I don't think that sort of stuff goes, especially as a female, because like there's so many guys. You never, like even self-consciously, like you're thinking like, I'm wearing shorts for my comfort, but people are looking, like all that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the situation.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean like that sort of stuff, it kind of winded out as I got a little bit more confident with my own abilities, and also just really channeled into why I wanted to be there. It wasn't for other people, it was for myself. Yeah,
for sure. I think that's really awesome. I think a lot of people, when they first start, they get caught in this sort of like, oh, like, are people judging me? Are people looking at me? And I think it's really tough for people who can't break out of it, because they don't get comfortable and they go for like 1-2 weeks and then they will come back to the gym.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what would your best advice be for people who are starting? I know you're mentioning a lot of just, focusing on yourself and focusing on anything. But yeah, what would your best advice be for people who are starting, who, may be female and being uncomfortable and stuff?
I think having a friend there is so important. Like, if I didn't, like, I can tell, like, I wouldn't have signed up. I would have signed up to a gym eventually, but it wouldn't have been at that time, the right place, right time in my mind, if I didn't have a group of people who did it with me. So if you can rope someone into it, even if it's just like, getting into the gym, going, like, sitting next to each other on the treadmill or some shit, you're still moving more than before. You slowly start to settle into the environment. You start to talk to people. You start to notice people, and like, whatever it is, that whole effect just snowballs just from you starting. So where you can, it would just be to initiate going in. The second thing, like, I guess for people who were taking it a bit seriously, would be just remember why you're doing it, and don't get caught up in what's happening in the process. Sometimes there's like the bigger picture you need to rely back on, and I know like I'm guilty of that, even with like my nutrition training at the moment. I just forgot why I was tracking my macros, and then my coach is like, no, remember, like, you just want to focus on the things you can do, build up that ability, and the things you can do right now, you can move, you can stand up, you can walk, you can lift things. If you focus on the things you can do when you start off at the gym, you're gonna have a good time. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Cool. Now let's talk about competing and powerlifting itself. Did you get a coach straight away when you first started, or was it when you started getting more serious that you were like, okay, I should look into getting a coach? Yeah, I think when I was at the bodybuilding gym, I didn't have any guidance. It was just like, I remember I had the notes on my, like, I didn't even have a phone. It was like an iPod. I had it like, written out, like chest, back, legs, like all that sort of stuff. When someone caught me doing 60 kilos for like 5x5 one day, and bench? They were like, I was 15.
Were you benching?
Yeah, benching.
Oh shit,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Okay.
And then they were just like, you got to look at this sport. You got to like Google it. They were trying to like tell me about weightlifting, and I was like, no, there's got to be like, I don't want to do weightlifting. I think I would never do anything overhead. So like this is just not.
Was it just because you didn't feel comfortable doing that, or
just didn't really know?
Okay,
like, I'm glad I didn't snatch at that age. I had no idea what I was doing.
Like,
Jesus Christ, it would have been so bad. I'm so glad that I didn't. At least not with guidance anyway. But yeah, I just Googled powerlifting. The first thing I kind of Googled was the records and stuff like that, because that to me was like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it properly.
You're going to beat the fucking record.
I was already 3 from 3 on the record. No, 3 from 4, because there's the total record as well. So I didn't have the deadlift record initially, but I had the squat, bench, and the total.
Without even any coaching?
Without even coaching, yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So then I was like, all right, like, I should probably just Google powerlifting, and then found Adonis, which was conveniently located kind of near home, but closer to school.
Yep.
So I could walk there from school, and I did do a few times, but sometimes by the time I got to year 11 and 12, I just scab lifts and stuff like that. And then once I got my license.
Yeah.
But yeah, joined Adonis, went in there. They had, I told Carlos was there, I think, when I arrived with my dad, because my dad was like, I want to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah. Was he that very protective of you think?
I think it's the same thing, like, just don't want to fall into the wrong environment.
Yeah, right, fair enough.
And like, I look at other powerlifting gyms, and it very could have easily been that way, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, depending on who owns the gym and their morals and their foundation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they came in there, and then I think the main gist was like, are you guys taking gear? Like, that sort of stuff. Luckily, it was like a really safe environment. There was heaps of people there. I think when I walked in, the best part for me was like house music was playing, like good Stereosonic 2012 vibe was playing, and I was like, all right, I already want to sign up.
Yeah.
Told Carlos what I could do already, and he was like, nah, I don't believe you. Come back tomorrow. Let's see what you can do.
He did believe you.
Yeah, I think he just expected like half squats, and
well,
the deadlift was shitty. So let's be real. Like, the deadlift was rounded back, so yeah, that was bad.
Okay, fair.
But yeah, I don't think he expected it to be like, always touching the chest for the bench and stuff like that.
Yep.
Came back the next day, showed him what I could do. I think it was like a 115 squat, a 70 kilo bench, and then a 125 or 130 deadlift, something like that. Yeah. And literally, like, that day, I remember it was like, sign up for PA, buy this soft suit, buy this belt, buy these knee sleeves.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
So it was like, you got to compete. Like, you got to compete right now.
Yeah, it was an expensive day for my parents.
Wow. And what are your parents like? What were your parents saying?
Well, I think they had that conversation with them, and I think like the Carlos and Will from Adonis at the time, I think they explained the significance of what was happening. Yeah,
right.
And not to mention, I was just kind of like, I really want to join. Like, this place is cool. Yeah. And then, I got all the gear, had no idea. And 3 months later, competed. Yeah, literally no idea. I remember my soft suit was like way too big. I had no idea what I was doing. I ordered a pair of Rum 2s, which in my mind I was like, this is a stupid shoe. And now it's like the most expensive shoe in weightlifting, because no one has Rum 2s anymore. Yeah. I competed in my first comp. I loved it.
How long were you from joining how long did it take from joining that gym, joining Adonis, to competing? 3 months. Whoa.
Yeah, okay. It was as soon as possible. And I remember that was the last comp before the last qualification for junior nationals.
Right.
So it was the last comp available. If you didn't do that comp, you couldn't do junior nats that year, and then you couldn't compete overseas that year and the next year after, or something like that. So it was very like deadline, like just made it.
Wow.
I remember I actually missed the initial first round entry for that comp, and we had to like ring up and be like, look, you gotta let this girl do it, like blah blah blah. Like, it wasn't me, it was like my coaches and stuff. Luckily I got in. That was John and Greta, who own City Strength. They let me in, and I'm forever grateful, because that was like a very good experience to go and do the first comp. Within that first comp, I did 145 squat. That was high bar. Again, no idea what I was doing still. I benched 92 and a half.
Wow.
No, 87. I missed 92.
How old were you? 16 at the time?
16, yeah.
Wow.
So my bench went up like 20 kilos from when I
Wow.
And then deadlifted 172.5, I think. Yeah. So the deadlift went up like a good 40, 50 kilos.
In 3 months.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then, I had all unofficial records there. I had heaps of people just being like, where did you come from?
Where does this bitch come from?
What is happening? Yeah. And from there, that year I competed 4 times. From junior, it was like a big year.
Yep.
And then cooled off a bit the next year, did 3 comps. Mainly just from there, I mainly did the qualifications I needed, and junior nationals, and like international comps. Yeah. Tried to keep it minimal.
Mm-hmm. So how many international comps did you do during that time?
I went to Uzbekistan for Oceanas that year. The year after, I went to Killeen, Texas for Worlds, and then I had Oceanas again that year, which was 2016. That was in New Zealand. The following year, I went to Belarus for Worlds.
Yep.
So yeah, four times overseas.
So this was when you were 16, 17.
Yeah.
At that age, how did you feel being like an athlete competing internationally?
I loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was like the best.
It gives me chills, man. I've got chills right now just like hearing about it and thinking about it.
Yeah, I honestly, like, it was the best thing because, well, now it was like, it took my mind off school. I had no stress about school or anything, which is kind of a good thing because I got to year 12 and I didn't feel that pressure. I did like okay in my HSC. Like, I didn't fail.
Okay.
I was happy with my mark for the effort that I put in. But yeah, like, I love just the fact that I could tell people I've gone to these countries and done these things. Like, I don't know anyone that's been to Uzbekistan who's not a weightlifter. And I think only one other coach here has been to Uzbek for lifting before. And like, that's the only other person I know other than those people that were on that trip.
What were your friends thinking at that time? Were they like, dude, like, what the fuck's going on? Like, you joined a gym and then all of a sudden you're overseas competing?
Yeah, I don't think they fully understood what was happening. Yeah. Because, like, I remember out of the school friends, only one came to watch me, which was in a Sydney Expo comp, which is fair enough because that was like local comp and you could get there. And that was like the fitness expo, so you could see a lot of things. It was mainly external friends that came and watched me. Like, I know...
like friends you met at the gym and stuff?
Yeah, my friend Josh Saunders, who runs HPU coaching, he's a G, he came to my first comp, and I keep in contact with him. We're always talking about upskilling and stuff like that, but it was mainly external friends. The school friends, they were caught up in their own stuff.
Yeah, right.
And like with school friends as well, like, not bagging them up, but I never really connected with many people from school.
Okay.
So I went there. I had friends. Like, don't get me wrong, I still had friends.
I had friends.
Yeah, like, I had friends, and like they were great. And like, I am forever grateful that I got to just sit with people and share experiences with them during school through those easy dumb years. But I don't think they ever fully understood. And I've had a few people who I've run into from school, they kind of get it now. They were like, holy shit, like, you were actually doing things. I was like, I was.
I was just competing internationally, but that's all right. It's chill.
That was like, but the school itself, like, they also were upset because I stopped competing in athletics. So they got a bit grumpy that I wasn't helping.
Were you
the
like
school.
their token child, like competing in athletics and like representing the school and stuff?
Yeah, but that was mainly because, like, you go to the zone carnivals. I wasn't like hard flex at zone or like the school carnivals, and like just doing the best I could.
Yeah.
I waited till I got to a certain point, and then I like switched it on because there's no point in me throwing hard at like school carnival.
Right. Just enough to like qualify.
And then once you get to like regional, like, I think again people didn't really understand that, like, once you get to a certain point you have to try a little bit harder, because I did want to go to nationals for that.
Yeah.
So when I told the school in year 11 that I was like, okay, I'm doing this lifting stuff, I'm not doing athletics, they were like, oh. Yeah, they were like, oh, you're not representing our school anymore. I was like, probably not.
Yeah. All right.
I'm just doing other things though. You can talk about that.
Yeah. Did they talk about you lifting?
Yeah, they did. The school was pretty supportive, and like even in year 12 they let me have time off. It was like like leave, because I remember when I went to Belarus, that was just during HSC trials or just before. I flew straight back home, went straight back to school.
All right. So it was like 3 days or something. And
after America I had a bit of a break off, and I relaxed for a week after. But Belarus I just went straight back home. Yep. Had to jump back in, study for trials, but they were really good about it. They didn't let it affect my attendance because it was like obviously for an event, and it was something that I wanted to do. The school was good about it, but they just got a bit upset. They got a bit cut, I think. Yeah.
Fair enough. And so basically you competed when you were 16, 17. What were the records that you basically got?
I ended up breaking the squat, bench. I did get the deadlift. Actually, no, I didn't get the bench. I got the squat, the deadlift, and the total record. I never got the bench. I held the bench record for one attempt. And then this girl from Finland who was invited to a Oceania event, she got it from me straight after.
Oh, damn.
So, I
got it from Finland?
Yeah, so they ended up inviting, like, internationals to certain comps. And this girl was there last year. It was my second last year as under 18. It was her last year.
Okay.
So they invited her to break the record, which she did.
Yeah.
And she beat it from me.
Fair enough.
But I got a 182.5 squat in competition.
Yep.
I got a 112 kilo bench in competition. And then I got a 200 kilo deadlift in competition.
Yep.
I think that total was 485 or 487. But my best overall total was 492. So I got very close to that 500 mark.
Wow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think the deadlift record has been broken.
Yep.
But with the records and stuff, like, that was secondary to the title.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it was always about the titles. The records were just, like, along the way.
Yeah. So in terms of the titles, tell me more about these titles. What was more important to you?
The titles were just more or less like, you can always break records, but someone's always going to break them after. That's what records are there for. And if someone's not breaking them, I don't think the sport would be progressing, or like obviously there's politics around that as to why people aren't breaking the records.
Yeah.
because I think there's always a way that people will do it. They can hold them for a long time, but some will always break them. But no one can come up to me and be like, I've taken your 2-time world championships away.
Yeah.
Like, but they can tell me that my records are gone.
Yeah.
So that actual entitlement from there was way more important to me, and that's something that I always looked after. And like, it was always about placings and achievements and stuff like that.
Yep.
Because the records and stuff, they're temporary. I think the biggest, my favorite placing wasn't even internationally. It was at my last year of competing in 2017. I did Open Nationals in Australia.
Yeah.
And myself and my friend Yanni, I was a under 18, she was a under 23, so I was a sub junior, she was a junior. She came first, I came second. She beat me by like 10 kilos on the total, but no Opens won. So we beat all the Opens.
Wow.
And then to this day, like my last total that I did in competition still leaves me 7th in Australia, like without even like going to it. So that sort of achievement from, like, you know, you're versing people in the same age and weight category at Worlds and stuff like that, but to verse people who have been lifting for a longer
10,
period of time
years,
and just cream them was the best.
Yeah, that's mad. And so officially you're a 2-time IPF world champion.
Yeah.
And you're also the first female junior to bench 100 kilos.
Yeah, first female to go back to back. I think the only male to do that as well was JP Kauki, so 5 Trong on Instagram.
Yep.
He did back-to-back in his junior years, and then I was the first female to go back-to-back world championship.
Yep, and also the 100 kilo bench. First
just
female.
the youngest person in Australia to bench 100.
There you go.
Yeah, at least to my knowledge, if anyone has anything.
If
like
anyone
that.
wants to dispute Beth, you
that.
can find her at Breakthrough Fitness and fight her. So
you can also check my drug test as well. They're on the ASADA website.
Well, how about drug testing? Was that a big thing for you? Where people like, dude, this chick is not like, she's not natural.
Yeah, not long after that first comp, I had ASADA knock on my door at 6 a.m. in the morning.
No way.
Yeah, and I had 2 really nice ladies. My parents had already gone. I think they were working. Actually, my dad was away for work, and my mum leaves very early for work.
Yep.
And I didn't drive at the time, so these guys came in. They showed me their documentation. I'm not going to let like randoms in the house. They showed me the documentation, and I rang my mum, and I was like, is this okay? She's like, you have to do it, I guess. Like, you know, you have to do it. If you decline, then you get denied from the next comp and all this stuff. They were at my house for ages, and I ended up missing the bus to go to school.
Oh, shit.
So yeah, I was in year 11 for that. Yeah. Because I didn't get my license till year 12 because I was younger in the grade.
Yep.
And yeah, missed the bus, got to school, and I took the documentation with me because I was like, I don't want to, get in trouble. Ended up getting a detention for coming late.
What?
Yeah, because I was late for school, so that was like something.
Tested.
Yeah, that was something I can thank ASADA for, that I got a detention.
Thanks, ASADA.
Yeah, thanks guys. But no, I got drug tested 4 times. Yeah, over 3 years.
Yeah. And all passed, obviously.
Yeah, 1 at home and then 3 at comps.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cool. And in terms of drug testing, for those who don't know, well, from my knowledge, people watch you actually get tested.
Yeah. So it's still discreet. Like you just have someone assigned to you, and they open all the stuff in front of you so you can see that it hasn't been tampered, and you have to physically open it yourself, check that the seals are there, all that sort of stuff. There's a big process that they do. Because I was under 18, I wasn't allowed to get blood tested. So that's only for over 18s. Yep. Even with parents' consent, they just don't do the blood test for the under 18s. But they are, and they do blood tests for a lot of the over 18s athletes, mainly out of competition. In competition, they kind of just want to get in and get out.
Yep.
So yeah, they call you over once you're done. You're not allowed to leave their site. You're allowed to, go get your medals, but they have to watch you. That you can't be out of their site. And you just got to keep drinking water till you have to pee. They come with you. They show you all the stuff to do. You got to sign a lot of stuff to do as well, which was kind of annoying, especially post comp. You just want to go do stuff. Yeah, you got to spend an hour doing all this stuff, but you get used to it. And I think 3 of the 4, in Australia there was 3 testings, and then 1 was overseas, and I think 2 of the 3 in Australia I had the same lady.
Oh really?
So it's you
got comfortable with it.
Yeah, you're fine with it. You kind of know there's a purpose of it. I know they're not just testing me for the fun of it. They want to get their job done, and I want to get out of there. So as soon as you kind of just do it, it's over and done with. I respect what they have to go through. Drug testing is a big talk right now in powerlifting, especially overseas. And I think the more that we can test, that filters the sport a lot better. I'm all for drug-free powerlifting.
Yeah, for sure.
Respectively, if you want to do it elsewhere, that's also fine. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think within the demands of competing in a tested federation, the more testing that we can do, the better. Unfortunately, it's just very expensive to run. So that's the hard part. Yeah, you don't want to waste their time either, because they obviously got a lot of money that they're going through. These ladies have got to move on, all the guys as well. They got to move on to their next job. So there's a lot of stuff around it, but we just need to make sure that's like abiding by the laws. That's a big one.
Yeah. And it's part of the sport as well. Like if you're competing in a natural competition, like there's got to be some sort of drug testing involved.
Absolutely,
yeah. Sure. Cool. Awesome. So moving on from when you were 16, 17, going into your junior, did you compete as a junior? Or
I never competed as a junior. So my last comp was a sub-junior, which was the Open Nationals.
Yep.
And then that whole lead up to that comp, I was having hip issues to the point where like I couldn't sleep. Physios, I wasn't at the right physio at the time.
Okay.
They weren't really helping. I won't name names. But yeah, it was just people with the wrong intentions who offered to help me but didn't really know what was going on, and they took advantage of that.
Yeah, right. And you were young too.
Yeah, and it's hard because like at the time, like I just really wanted to feel better. Like I just really wanted to get, and the job was to get to the platform for most of those occasions.
Yeah.
And then a lot of personal stuff happened after that comp, along with feeling injured and tired and all that sort of stuff.
So you're burnt out, basically.
Very burnt out.
Yeah.
The personal stuff went on. Like one of my friends got diagnosed with cancer, and that was pretty hard. And I just stopped competing, or stopped training because I was down there. Like, well, she was in Melbourne. I was down there. I just wanted to like be there with her and support her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't training as much down there. I was training maybe like 3 days a week. That's about it.
But no like program or anything? Or?
No, I just off program everything. And then by the time I got back to the gym, like everything had just changed. Like my head just changed. I wanted to enjoy life after school. I needed to get a job. I needed to support myself and all this stuff. And just the values very much shifted from winning to just keeping my head above
surviving,
water.
basically,
And like just doing what I need to do. Like my parents have always been supportive, and like I'm still at home with them now, but like I pay my way with food and stuff like that as well.
And you want to be independent as well, obviously.
Well, yeah, like I didn't want to depend on them. I didn't want to exhaust their resources as well. Like I want them to be able to enjoy their own money as well. So it was like, I got a job. I was working at Rebel Sport, and just trying to like figure out what I actually want to do, because I thought powerlifting would be a bit longer than that, and then when I got back, I just couldn't pick it back up where I was, and I was injured as well still.
Yeah.
And I just started working full time to pay some bills, traveled a bit. It wasn't until I traveled overseas in 2018, my friend convinced me to go to DEF CON overseas. So nice. I traveled over there, and I had some money, but I had to borrow some money at the time, and I borrowed it from my parents. My mum was like, if I give you this money to go travel and do what you want to do, when you come back you have to do something. So before I went away on that trip, I signed up to be a personal trainer, Cert 3 and 4. I was like, look, if it's something that I can do for now and support myself with, that's always going to be good. Like I was overthinking the whole situation. I was like, I need to do this forever. Whatever I choose now, I'm stuck with. I was like, look, I'll just do it for now. And my friend Jose also, Jose Gerardo, who owns X Gym at Bella Vista, he also wanted to start coaching at the time. So we did it together. That was the worst course I've ever done. Straight up. I can't believe the quality of this industry that is happening, and that's something that frustrates me entirely. But
I think a lot of PTs say the same thing about the Cert 3 and 4.
And like the turnover rate is like the amount of PTs that graduate is the amount of PTs that leave per year in Australia. It's so bad. Anyway, worst.
It's gonna be a PT. Don't listen to what you
if you want to be a PT, do it, but you just expect less from your company.
Basically.
Don't rely on that for your education.
I definitely agree. I feel like when I did my PT course, I was so not prepared to be a PT. I was like, why did I just do that course? I'm not ready to be a PT. And so a lot of the stuff that I learned was from my own PT. I was training with Vincent Chow at that time, and he taught me a lot of stuff in terms of running my own business, actually working with clients and working with people. And then it was just my own sort of upskilling in terms of looking towards people like I get a lot of my stuff from Eugene Teo. I think he's really good. But just like my own sort of research, my own work. But in terms of the actual course itself, it's just like...
Oh, it's so numbing. I think the only thing good about that course is your first aid and your CPR is done on the spot. And then the certs that you get at the end, that's about it.
That's about it.
They go over everything so briefly, and it's not good. So I think the only real thing to do, if you feel underprepared which you should.
Yeah.
Like even I had a
Rightly
fair
so.
bit of knowledge and I felt underprepared.
Yeah.
Just do it. Like just get in there and choose a company that's going to support you. Like I know there's a lot of good companies out there. A lot of the Anytimes, they got their own like staff development within there now, and I know like Prime Performance, who does the Plus Fitness coaching, they've got a really good entry level for PTs and stuff like that. But that's the only way you learn these days. Start making your own mistakes, learn from them, and learn from other people's mistakes.
100%.
Because unfortunately that part of the system is so flawed.
Yeah, and I think you've got to be able to think independently and work independently as well. As a PT, it's very, for me anyway, I felt like it was very solo. The other thing also was that at the gym that I was at, the gym that I'm at now, that I'm PTing at, I was the only PT there. So when I first started, there was no one to sort of talk to. There was no one to really just learn from. And so all my shadowing was done with Vincent. All of my hours were done with Vincent. And so for me, it was just a lot of my own thinking, my independent thinking. And the good thing about the Anytime that I'm with anyway, the Mark Arthur group, was that they do have a very good PT development program. And the PT managers there are very, very helpful. The only thing that I wish was there for me was another PT to sort of shadow and follow. Because I think you can actually learn a lot from, if you go with the right PT, you can learn a lot from shadowing and just learning from them and sticking around with them. Even if you're working hours that are free, it's better to get that experience and just learn than just, go on your own and possibly be teaching the wrong things or doing the wrong things.
I reckon even with those courses, like if your PT course is like 3 months, which mine was, cut that in half or like cut it in 2/3 and spend a month just like shadowing someone as part of the course. That would actually go such a long way.
Definitely.
Because people can either see what, like they do it with teachers and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Like you do work placement. You should have to do work placement for this because like it's still people's health, it's people's bodies, it's people's livelihood that you're dealing with every day. You can't have someone who's unsure, uneducated, or unable to think critically as well. That's a big one. If you can't make a decision on the spot that's for a good cause, then that's the mistakes that you make will have an effect on other people.
For sure. Like you're basically changing lives, and if you're giving them the wrong information and bad information, then you're changing their lives negatively rather than positively. Cool. Basically, with your transition into a coach then, you mentioned that you went overseas and then your parents basically forced you to do something. What was it like starting as a PT? Was Breakthrough your first place? Breakthrough where we are now? Or what was your journey, I guess, as a PT?
The first place I worked, like in-person coaching, was at Black Flag Barbell Club in Castle Hill. They took me on. So I graduated the PT course in December. I think I did from September 2018 to December 2018, something like that. And then ended up just looking for a job, and like the most perfect ad came up, which was powerlifting coach wanted in the hills.
Mad.
And I went in there, and I think there was a few people that they were actually looking for exercise exercise physiologist, or even like a physio. And I said to them, I was like, look, I'm not that qualified. I've done my certs, but I'm willing to learn. And like they knew about like my powerlifting history, and obviously that I had an interest in it, which I think caught their attention.
So did they know who you were?
Okay, cool. They already knew. I'd known Chris, the owner of Black Flag, because I'd been treated by his wife as a physio before. And I think I was treated by Chris once. They helped me actually get to the platform for Worlds in 2017, I think.
Interesting.
I already knew the owner there, and then he was willing to take a chance on me, and that was really good. I at the same time I kind of established the online stuff, so I had just mates that I coached kind of like for free, just kind of like figuring out what works, what doesn't. Chris and Vince at Black Flag, they upskilled me so much. They taught me just how to interact with people, which I think is a really good thing, because all these people now, they're coming out of like their PT school or whatever they're doing, and they just want to be online coaches, but they don't know how to talk to people, they don't know how to connect with people, and you have to be reactive. Even with online coaching, you have to be reactive to a situation, but for the good. So they taught me a lot just about interaction and different skill levels as well, like dealing with people from a rehab point of view, and just understanding basic human function, and that there's no need to rush adding load and weight and resistance and all that sort of stuff. Forever grateful for what they did for me there, because that put me in a position where I just wanted to learn more and more. And I kind of needed to, because we had such a diverse range of people at that gym. It was people who came in from like car accidents and like physio point of view, all the way up into like athletes that are competing at a national level. And you had to be able to cater for everyone in between that, and everyone at the core of it just wanted to move better, whether it was for strength or was just walking or whatever it may be. So yeah, the need to upskill came from them. We had a lot of like development, like sort of like meetings, and we kind of spoke about, and I think they actually learned a little bit from me because I still had that like history of like hypertrophy and bodybuilding that I really paid attention to. Yeah. So just different sort of outlooks and views on things, and even they have mentioned to me just the mindset around talking to people at a high level, like athlete level or something like that. The competitive side of things, I reasoned with them about like how to connect with them and all that sort of stuff. So we like I like to think that I gave back a little bit in terms of that sort of side of things. But yeah, I ended up online coaching. I went overseas again in 2019. So I got hired at the start of 2019. I went overseas halfway through again, went to DEF CON, had my fun, blah, blah, blah.
Let's not talk about that too much. We'll just skip over it.
No, like it was good though. I got to go around Europe and stuff. And like it was a good kind of break before I knew that I was going to switch up into coaching like full time. I was like, I'm going to spend this month. I'm going to like, I went to like 7 countries or something like that, 6 countries.
By yourself?
No, I had like a few friends with me. Like they came and left at certain points of the trip. And I was like, look, I'm going to go on this trip, come back, and I'm going to switch it on. And on that trip, I actually met someone who was my first paying client. Wow. I was standing next to him at a crowd, and then he was like, oh, I live in Sydney, blah, blah, blah. He ended up really liking gym and training, and he started paying me. That was my first paying client.
Did you like pitch to him? Was he just like, oh?
No, he was like, I'm ready to go. Like, you seem cool. Like, I just spent like a few weeks with you or a few days with you. Like, let's get going.
Mad.
So yeah, instantly from that trip, I just started, like, that's where I got output like set up straight away. Started to gain a little bit more confidence in my coaching, got new people. I think I had about 5 onlines, and I was still working at Black Flag as well. And then 2020 rolled around, and I all of a sudden started like upskilling myself into like this new niche of like anatomy and just understanding like muscle orientation, joint function, like muscle fiber direction, all that sort of stuff, and like being able to take some knowledge that I had very little understanding of, and now I could probably like I started to view training as like problem solving. Because you could have this foundation, this base of knowledge, and then you can apply it to almost any issue that someone has, as long as you do it properly. And from there, like I started actually getting a lot of new clients, which was crazy. So awesome. I recently, so that at the start of 2020 as well, that's when I got the job here at Breakthrough. So for the better part of last year, other than the COVID lockdown, I was doing the online coaching, which was full on. I was working here for just 8 hours a week, and then I was working at Black Flag for 17 hours a week. And
Black Flag, what were you doing at Black Flag? One-on-one, or what was that like?
Just a small group sort of training environment. So you instead of it being like a one-on-one where you're like constantly talking to someone, holding their hand, all that sort of stuff, you give them the advice that they need, you watch their set, you move on. And so you don't like waste too much time, and that's how we got around to more people as well. So we made sure that we were getting to everyone, because we could have like upwards of 20-30 people on the floor, and 2 coaches at the best of times. So it was kind of like, okay, well, if we've got the people here that need to keep going around to each single lift, we need to give you what you need to hear, and then we're going to move on, and we're going to keep watching you from a distance.
So you're just on the floor, people would come and train, and then you're just on the floor coaching people and stuff.
Just rebounding off everyone. And that was the thing, like you never know who was going to be in there at the time. There was definitely the usual people, but there was also a lot of like newcomers, or like especially towards the later months at Black Flag, there's a lot of new people coming through. So you always just have to be reactive to the situations, and you have to balance like a lot of people at once with like new people and like different entry levels and different abilities, different injuries. It's so much. But that's the sort of stuff, like the small group environment, I think is really beneficial, because other than that, you're also by nature just creating a community. Because when you're not talking to them, someone else is talking to them. And so that just builds up a community in that gym. So we're trying to build that here at Breakthrough as well. It just got to the point where the onlines just outweighed it a lot more, and I had to start focusing on my own business. So I like switched paths from Black Flag into focusing on my onlines. And like now my online's a full-time job. Like I would spend some check-in days, upwards of 6-7 hours checking in with people. I have different service levels, so I have like the weekly check-in, which is the ultimate sort of coaching, but I've also got just like the ongoing coaching, which they get a call every month. They're getting check-ins with me 3 times a week though, now like through my business system. And like it's just been full on. I have a lot more time to upskill myself, which is important as well, because I think if, like, obviously we know that the system is flawed with the entry level. If you're not upskilling yourself, because studies on the body are always changing, and abilities of the human performance training and like evolution as well, we don't see it happening, but it is happening. And if you're not up to date with the current abilities of human function, or at least trends in data in society, you're not going to go far as a coach. So you need to be current. That's the one thing that I can't stress enough. So like upskilling myself is so important.
Yeah.
Whether it's like business, I've done business courses, I've done like mentorships with that. I try and steer more into like the anatomy of the body sort of stuff, because that's always applied. Like that's always something I'm going to deal with. Doing my taxes is something that I kind of worry about later, but like, learning to save, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, one time a year I think about that. But yeah, like just the upskilling is so important to me right now, and having more time to do that, it directly affects the people that I interact with, because I get to initiate better conversations or start a different thought path or anything like that. It affects my clients because they get a better quality service, or they get something a little bit more individualized towards them, or at least I get to know their body a little bit better. Also just interactions, like being able to talk to a physio and actually understand what they're saying about the body. Very underrated skill, because I think at any point someone's going to have to see a physio. If you can't interact with them and you can't work with a physio, your client's not going to go anywhere. So yeah, the upskilling is the main focus, because other than that, I don't know if I'll be coaching like all the way in my life. I would like to steer towards education, but to pass on, you have to live and learn first. So for sure. That's the point that I'm at now. I just have to keep absorbing everything where I can.
I want to talk more about your mindset as a coach then. What do you see as your role in terms of helping a client with their training? Where do you see yourself in their sort of training, and what sort of perception or perspective do you have about that?
Yeah, so when I first started, I used to think that I needed to control every sort of aspect of their training and tell them what to do and how to do it, and not really show them why. And that's something that I've learned. Obviously, you can see on my shirt right now, like whys and hows. It's something that I've diversified away from, and it's become a lot more of a nurture role. Being in a position where I am online, I have the luxury of people coming to me. And they already have a good idea of what I do because of the product that I put out, and like either my clients' results or the information I'm putting out on like Instagram is like my website. It's kind of like my blog style sort of thing. So they have a good idea of what I'm capable of sharing and teaching already from that point. But I think the nurture thing is something that people are taken back from, and it's something that separates coaches in the industry as well, is how well can you nurture someone who wants to be there and wants to train. Because you've got these people who could be so talented, but they don't want to be there. And if you're not nurturing the part of them that's enjoying the process, then they don't want to train, and all the talent in the world is not going to...
You can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves.
Exactly, So the nurture role is much more important to me right now, and just making sure that if someone comes to me, I understand what they're doing because they have the why behind it, not so much like how they want to get to their goals. It's like, why do you want to achieve these goals? The pre-screen process that I use for that, it's very in-depth. I ask a lot of questions that are open-ended, and I ensure that before I even get them to sign up to anything, I know that I'm in a position to help them, and I know that they're in a position where they want to be helped. That's a big thing. Like, it's got to be that two-way street, and I always emphasize that to my clients, where like, I can only help you if you help yourself. Your check-ins are your accountability, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, just being able to have someone come at whatever level that they are. It doesn't have to be advanced, it can be intermediate. I have beginner athletes who have never done powerlifting before, so just having people come at that level, and I can understand why they want to do this and why they want to achieve those goals. We can better communicate to push towards that. That's the most important part.
Have you ever had to deal with a client who is like, I'm so keen, but the actions don't really...
A lot. There's a few clients, most of the time it can be solved with a simple conversation. There's a few clients that have expectations about what I'm capable of doing, which may not actually be true. Like, whether they've made that up in their heads, or things that I might have said might have been misleading, and upon those situations I've reflected the best that I can to ensure that my service is better for it. But yeah, there's usually the conversation being like, okay, well, I'm only capable of doing so and so. If you meet me halfway here, we can actually achieve this sort of stuff. But you haven't been able to check in consistently, or you haven't been able to send me all these camera angles consistently. How do you expect me to coach you if I don't? So yeah, 9 times out of 10, I would say a simple conversation does fix that. And if you explain to them again the why I coach and why I can help you, they will typically understand how we're going to do it then. Where like, some people, there's like that one case says they don't want to see reason, unfortunately, and those people, they find their own way, whether they find another coach who better understands them, or they have a better connection with. Like, coaching, there very much needs to be a connection. So look, if people like move on, they find a better connection with someone, at the end of the day they're still training, they're still moving, and talent's not being wasted. That's the most important part.
And so I guess in the next few years, what do you see yourself in terms of your own training, and do you see yourself competing again? What's the plans for the next few years? So obviously since I stopped training in 2017, the focus was rehabbing and getting back to at least understanding how my body moves. And
recently this year I felt confident enough in my abilities and had done a few cycles on and off without as much injury or without as much aggravation, I guess, in the muscles. So I recently reached out to Tom Haynes, who is a coach in Sunshine Coach, and I'm doing online training or online coaching with him. He's awesome. He's an exercise physiologist, but he also does like powerlifting and very much interested in that. So doing a lot of, I'd say like not PRI sort of like exercises, but definitely like left field exercises to try and sort out some imbalances structurally. And like, because he knows that I have the ability, you've got like structure and function. Function is your ability to apply cue or correct yourself. He knows that I have that function, but sometimes the structure only lets you down so far. So certain imbalances that I have, like naturally internally rotated hips, the shoulder stuff from throwing, broke my ankle many years ago. All this stuff that's popping up now, which we're just trying to like smooth out all the creases, and then hopefully that'll put me in a position where I can compete again. I would love to be able to do it, but I'm not in a position to have expectations. The situations and the circumstances are different from when I was competing, so it's all just figuring it all out again, what balance like works well, how many training days I can do, how my work schedule fits around that. And when you're a competitor, you have to be so selfish, and when you're a coach, you have to be selfless. So it would have to be like a certain time where it's not stressful with work, or like I'd have to like very much reconsider my values at that time, and like at least my stress relief or like free time to be able to focus on myself. There's a lot of things that I'm just trying to figure out right now. So ultimately, like whatever direction starting to take that training goes in, I'm happy to go along for the ride. But I can't see myself doing like too much in the very near future. Like at the moment, again, just trying to better understand how I move, fix a lot of the things that are still happening over time. If I compete again, I compete again. I'd love to. Like only this year I've started to like powerlifting again. I was very turned off it for a while just because just like the whole experience that I had where like I was just mad about how it ended, and it was a lot of like internal stuff. I was just like so frustrated that I went from being so good at something then like incapable of laying down in bed without pain.
So
I was
do you think that was a really big downfall?
In my mind, it was probably overly dramatic. It happened. I was in a position where I could still like I'm still alive. I could still do things like other people are not as fortunate. So you know, like in my mind, it was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But you know, in the reality and like in hindsight now, like whatever, you just lost interest and you got hurt. Like that shit sort of happens to everyone. But I mean, like I was just frustrated overall with that whole like time, and I think for now it's just more or less making sure that I don't get into that negative space again, and it comes a lot down to like how I talk to myself or how I approach training sessions, and making sure that no matter what I'm doing, like I don't say that I had shit set. I say like, you know, I could have done this better, or like that was good, or trying to highlight the positives, because especially when you're online coaching, you don't have your coach there all the time, or you don't have someone with you, so you have to be very objective, and you have to, you know, you actually have to acknowledge the bad things. You can't just focus on the good things. But there's certain ways that you can round about that and make sure it's not so negative, and it's the mindset, it's the approach, it's how you talk about yourself, it's how you think about yourself, because the qualities that you display every day about how you talk to yourself, that builds a rhythm and a pattern into how you actually view yourself. So I think it's very important to give myself that respect along this process, and hopefully I'll find myself in a much better position. Maybe not as competitive as I was, because like the 84 kilo girls are just nuts right now. Like I would not win. I'm telling you, like even if I tried really hard, I don't think I have the ability to do that.
You reckon?
Oh man, like Amanda Lawrence squatting 260 kilos. No way. But I laugh at that. I remember like she was just coming up with Daniela Mello when I was competing.
How much older are they from you?
Amanda's a few years older. Daniela's a year and a half older.
So they're not that much older than you.
And like I remember that those girls were coming out of nowhere, like just went at the back end. And Daniela was at my second Worlds. I got to meet her there and say hi and all that sort of stuff. And I was like in my mind, like I can't wait to beat these girls. I was like, whoa, like I would not beat these girls. Like no way. I'm not even like close. They like I don't know their circumstances. Like they're probably still working. I know like Daniela studies full time, and like she's got her own uni stuff that she's upskilling herself towards, and obviously she supports herself as well. Like I don't really know Amanda that well. Like I've never really met her. But I can only assume that she's just so committed to something that I'm kind of like just trying to find enjoyment about. But the exception is that I think the girls right now who are competing consistently, they're also just defying so many odds within the sport for women. Like they're ranked competitively, they're tested athletes that rank with the not natty girls, and like that in itself is such a feat, because like the standard of lifting right now is so high, and I would only really hope to be like even at like a elite level within this country again, like one day, because at the moment, like I'm okay, like I'm okay, like I'm definitely not what I was. I could only hope to be like as competitive or as like driven as they are, because what they're doing is nuts. It's crazy for the sport. People will not forget those girls either. Like it's one of those things, like it's like Eddie Hall equivalent for a female. Like Amanda Lawrence is actually crazy. It's
sort of like, it's like 5 years ago you would never see someone like that, or like that.
For a female to squat 260, you'd have to be like 200 kilo body weight, and you'd have to be in reps.
And so like, what is she under?
She's under 84, and she's raw. Like no wraps or anything. Like she squatted 260. Like and it's unbelievable. And like even Daniela Mello, like she's squatting 240, deadlifting 240, benching 140, all this stuff. Like these girls in that weight class are just like, I don't know what happened. That weight class just like spiked up hard. That's and crazy. Like it was just like this switch flicked, and like it's happening everywhere. Like it's not even those two girls. There's so many girls I can't even name who just found that they could be like dice shredded at 84 kilos as well. Like Jessica Butner, oh my god, she's diced, and she's like actually 80 kilos. Like she has abs, and she's like the same body weight as me. I'm like, what? It's insane. Hell? And she's deadlifting 250. No, it's just like these girls are crazy. I like, it's actually crazy.
And so for you, when you compete again, it's sort of like you look at that and you're like, fuck.
Look, who knows? I know that like if I start to see results, I will switch that mindset again. I know it will happen. It's happened before. I had like a spur of like getting back into heavy lifting in end of 2019. I ended up getting back to like a 190 deadlift and a 115 bench. I was doing a push pull comp. I didn't squat as much. I was squatting around like 130.
Was it because of your
hip still was hurting, knee was hurting, but also it was a push-pull comp, and like I just would rather push my deadlift harder. I could see the results in that, and I was driven to like keep going, but then I ended up getting a tattoo done. I got my whole back done, so I couldn't train for 6 months on and off because
6 months.
Yeah, it was like a session, and like actually I was doing 2 sessions in March, but like December, January, February did a session every month. 2 sessions in March, and then had to wait for COVID to end to do my last session. So it was like a lot of inconsistent training. Couldn't get to the gym for a few days at a time, and then that kind of like fused out that drive that I had after that sort of stuff. But it was also like elsewhere, something that I wanted to do for myself, and I was very happy that I took advantage of the situation, because that's something that I really want to do. Which I don't regret at all. Like like maybe I could have steamrolled a bit more momentum with training, but I've wanted something for a while, and that was something to do for me. It was something like, what else, like outside training? If you don't have anything outside training, like who are you really? For sure. So like I know that I can switch on, and I probably will switch on. I'm always competitive, but like I definitely know I'd have to work really fucking hard to get there. Like hard.
And in terms of your training then, and your mindset when it comes to training, I really like what you said about the way you think about yourself, and not sort of saying that you had a shit set, but saying it in another way, and that sort of positive reinforcement. What would your best advice be to like your clients or to anyone listening in terms of training, and more about mindset and how they view their training as well? What would you say to them?
Well, I think like that's something that I teach to my clients as well. Just like how you talk about yourself is going to affect how you view yourself. I would say, like, I don't know if you share the same experiences, but majority of my clients have some sort of disorder, either associated with fitness, either associated with how they look, associated with how they're eating. That's
why they're training.
Like a majority of them have something, and even if they don't know that they have something, they have something, and that's something that I identify. The main thing that I would say is treat yourself with respect and give yourself some slack. If something doesn't go your way, or even if you do get injured or whatever it is, don't like get cut out straight away. Like these things happen to everyone. Like even the top athletes get injured and they have time off and things happen. The only thing that deters away is how they come back from that. So if you make mistakes, or if you get injured or anything like that, you just have to stay positive, and you have to just look at everything that you do, and if you have the right guidance, it should be data. If you have a bad training cycle, that's data that you and your coach have to now make a better cycle. So there's always, as long as you're taking action upon these mistakes or these occurrences, something better has to happen. And that's where like having someone guide you, whether it's a coach or a friend or anything like that, that's always really, really important. But I think the next thing would be, again, just remember why you're doing it. Like, why do you want to come into the gym? Why do you want to do powerlifting? And why are you so invested into something? If you can't understand why you're doing it, then your results will never be what you want them to be.
I think what you said about diet is really interesting, because I say that a lot to my clients as well. a lot of my clients are weight loss clients, right? And they're trying to lose weight. And I just say to them, like, look, whatever you see in the scale is just data. Take that as data, as a data point, and there's no need to get emotional about it or anything.
Yeah.
You got different data points as well. It's not just your body weight. There's how you look, how you feel. Those are all different data points as well. It may not be as easily measurable, but it's still definitely a data point that you should take into account whenever you're training.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think for people who are training, especially new people, don't be too laser focused on any sort of one data point or whatever. Take into account how you feel, how you behave, or even outside of the gym, like you feel more energetic. That's a win in itself. And I think the power of small wins is very, very big, and I like to focus on that as well.
Yeah, I think like weight loss is hard, man, because it's always like that subjective thought. Like there's always like, how come that's gone up? How come that's gone down?
It's hard to remove the emotions from it.
Emotion with weight loss. And I'm so glad I don't deal with that. I'm so glad. Like I stick to what I know. Like I think like there's so much reward out of encouraging people to do that, but there's also very high risks. And I spoke about the physical effects of like mistakes as a trainer. There's also physical effects, and this ties into like weight loss and coaching as well, as like how we talk to them. And you can't necessarily acknowledge mistakes as mistakes or a negative thing, and if you tell something that they've messed up or they've made a mistake, you can't talk like that to a client, because that steamrolls a lot of negative, or it develops then disorders as well.
Exactly. It's very, very like,
it's fragile.
You're always on the edge, and sort of like you can't say this, you can't say that. It's like
it's so fragile, and like it's very hard to balance those things. The best that, like you said, like the best we can do is just remind them that progress is data, and that's like, we take away all the emotions out of it, and like we just have stuff to work with. And then like, at least in my mind, when people come to me who are like maybe like too attached to it, I just try and like encourage them to do other things. A lot of my clients, they're like into like photography or stuff like that, and I get them to pursue that sort of things, or even throw themselves into work, like really just like get around it, like even go, like if they're working in the city, like go for drinks with your mates after work or something like that. Like, you can train on the weekend one day. If you go for drinks on a Friday night, just train Saturday, just have something else outside of training is going to be really important, because there will be a time when that training doesn't work. And you gotta make sure you have something else there for your mental health.
Definitely. And I think people get caught in that trap where it's like, I have to train, I have to be at the gym all the time in order to get results. When like I have people who come to me who've just started, or they've been training for a while, and they're like, I come to the gym like 6-7 days a week and I still don't see results. Like maybe that's why you're not seeing results. And so it's just breaking those habits as well for clients, or people who have been training for a while. How about yourself as a coach? Where do you see yourself in the next few years, and what's the sort of plan? You mentioned that you want to be more like an educator. I think that's really awesome. I think you would suit that role very, very well. I can definitely see you in that role. But where do you see yourself in the next few years?
I think like more recent times, I just realized that I think I have much more to give in terms of just information to people rather than the actual interactions themselves. Like I'll definitely pursue coaching for a very long time, and I think I can see myself doing this for a while. If it came to it, I'm not opposed to going back to uni and becoming a physio. Like I would love to be able to help more people, or at least like now, like I have to make a post now and I have to preference it, be like, okay, well, this, I believe this is my beliefs, this is, you shouldn't take this like as law, like you have to like preface it a lot. I would love to just like give them some facts, like and
just straight up facts.
This is correct, like because there's stuff that I post I know is better than some physios. Like, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great physios, and there's a lot of stuff I'm still learning. But there's some stuff that like I post, I'm like, man, physios don't even know this. Like it's crazy, or at least they're not posting about it. And like I'd love to be able to just help more people and have a bigger reach just by actually earning my way through. So I'm a firm believer that you have to earn your way up. Like I'm not going to scapegoat physio and just start giving out information. Like I want to be like in a position where legally I'm allowed to do it, and also I've earned my way into doing that. But I definitely recognize that I do not know everything. Like I like I said to you, upskilling to me is so important. If I'm not upskilling at one time of the year, I need to make sure that I'm doing something else for my business or for my mindset, or at least like enhancing creativity. That's the main thing, or being able to think even more critically. I think critically as is, but I need to think even more critically about situations. Look, physio is something that I've played around with. I don't know if like owning a gym would just, like that would be a dream, but like it's financially just such a big dream to have for at least living in Sydney. Like it's so crazy. And like if I owned a gym, or if I opened a gym, I would want to own the space, because I just want to do whatever I want to it. I don't want to rent and work it out that way. So I have like thoughts about how I would want to do it, whether or not I pursue that. But the educator role would be something that I'm very interested in, because I think again, it's all about, for me, it's always about helping people. It actually always been about that.
Definitely.
I never realized how much I actually wanted to help people until like I really got deep into coaching, and it didn't even feel like a hard job.
Yeah, for sure.
I was balancing like the 40 hours a week work that I was doing and driving like 3 or 4 hours a day between this job and the other job and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like work, and I was like, it only until like I burnt out, I was like, okay. But I didn't realize how much I valued helping people, and I think if I could reach more people, whether that's through education or through physio, and who knows how the climate's going to be, like obviously everyone's saying like online is the go with all this like COVID stuff. However I choose to do that, I know that the underlying factor is that I want to make people understand why they're doing things, how they're doing things, and what they're doing it for.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome because you figured out essentially what you love to do and what you want to do, and you figured out what you enjoy, and essentially what you can do from there is just bounce off where you can go from there.
Yeah.
And there's so many different pathways like physio, PT and stuff. There's different pathways. I think for a lot of people, you're 21 this year, right? 22 this year. I'm 21 this year, and I think a lot of people our age are still trying to figure out what they actually like and enjoy. And people, went straight into universities right after high school, and they essentially thought, yes, I'll do like physio, or I'll do like exercise science, whatever.
Yeah.
And essentially they feel stuck in their role now. Even people who do law and stuff. But it's like what happened with me was when I got out of high school, I actually went to university to study a Bachelor of Business. I finished that last year, and so I did 3 years of that. But now I'm working as a PT full time. Yeah. Like it's nothing to do with my degree. And for me, it was just taking that risk and just taking that leap. Essentially for me, the journey was I competed in my first bodybuilding show. And from there, I was like, if I can go through a bodybuilding show, and if I actually enjoy it this much, surely I could like
help other people.
Yeah, surely I could help other people do it, and surely like I would enjoy working as a PT as well. And that's what happened. And essentially, I just rolled with it and took that risk. And I think a lot of people, especially younger people, they don't understand that right now is the perfect opportunity for them to just explore and just to figure out what they actually do enjoy.
Yeah.
And then once they can figure out that, then they can just live their lives doing what they love, doing what they enjoy.
Even just understanding, like I said to you earlier, like you don't have to, what you pick now, you're not stuck with. Like,
yeah, that's it.
Just change it. And that knowing that is something that they don't actually teach in school. And they always just make it seem like what you pick is what you're stuck with.
Yeah.
But like even now, like leaving my old job at Black Flag, like that was very much a security job. Like it was constant pay, it was constant hours, set hours, always guaranteed work. And like leaving that, there was a big risk because now I'm for the most part self-employed. Mm-hmm. But if there was a time to make mistakes, it's now. Like it's do all the mistakes now, make all the risks now. Like obviously within reason. Like I'm not gonna borrow heaps of money and open my own gym now, but I'm gonna invest in myself and back myself all the way and provide myself more opportunities to do that.
Yeah.
If I do that now and it's a mistake, then I have time, because the only thing that we don't have is more time.
Exactly, 100%. I love that. And even people, like I'm not even talking about 20-year-olds, even people in their 30s and stuff, that's why people go through midlife crises, right? Because they go through half their lives doing a job they hate and essentially just do it to pay bills, and then they get stuck with mortgages and their kids and stuff. Even if you're at that point, you still have the opportunity to still take risks. I think people are very risk averse these days, and people are just staying away from taking these risks, and essentially what they do is they just live their lives in misery. And so I guess that's what Daily Hustle is part of as well. What I try to do is with Daily Hustle as well. It's to figure out what you love to do and just keep hustling and keep doing it every day.
Yeah. I mean, I respect that, because I mean, at least young people, it's easy to get lost in a lot of other things as well, like whether it's like social life or things that are happening. And not so much, obviously COVID restricted a lot of things they were doing, but even just like going out socially, enjoying yourself, like young people do get caught up in that to the point where it's a bit detrimental. Yeah. If you're always like revolved around like the hustle, I would say, like if you're revolved around like the hustle and pushing yourself and backing yourself, like even the mistakes that you make, they're not going to be mistakes. Like I said, everything's data.
For sure. That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to say? Anything that you have, like any advice for anyone going into PT or into training or anything?
No, I think we touched it all up, like just making sure that you know why you're doing it and remember why you started and all the bigger picture that you have in mind.
Yeah, the whys and hows, right?
The whys and hows, that's what we need to know. You need to know the whys for the hows and vice versa.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, just making sure that you have an understanding of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and the big picture that you have in mind. And don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just because other people are doing things, focus on yourself.
100%. Yeah.
Everyone started somewhere.
Yeah,
that's a big thing.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Well, if people want to find you, where can they find you? Here's your time to
Yeah,
sort of talk about yourself.
Primarily on Instagram. I don't really use Facebook or my website. My website's just like
there.
Yeah, there. So Output Strength Systems on Instagram. I think it's output.s.s. I post up whether it's lifting tips, like even like accessory and isolation tips. That's something I'm really big on. Mindset, insight, and then obviously my clients' results and stuff like that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's mainly where I'm at.
Yep, cool. So find Beth at output.s.s at Instagram, and you can follow us dailyhustle.apparel on Instagram as well, or you can follow myself, coventran.fitness. You can also hop onto our website. What's your website? Is it same?
Yeah, outputstrengthsystems.com.
outputstrengthsystems.com.au, and you can find us daily-hustle.co. Awesome. It was really awesome talking to you. I'm really glad that we had this opportunity to sit down and chat.
No, thanks for having me, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.